WCNC Charlotte, this is Flashpoint.
Thanks for joining us here on Flashpoint. I'm Ben Thompson. This week, we are speaking one-on-one with Senator Thom Tillis, now serving North Carolina and Washington for more than 8 years. And he's earning a reputation as one of the most bipartisan senators in Congress, a deal maker, some say, willing to work across the aisle. But that puts him at odds with much of Washington. I spoke with the senator from Washington earlier this week about everything from the debt ceiling to classified documents. Senator Thom Tillis joins us now from D.C. Senator Tillis, thanks for coming on as always.
Thank you.
All right, let me start with the obvious question, and that is, Senator, do you have any classified documents in your home or your garage or in your office?
I have never had a classified document outside of a classified room. That's how the rules work in Congress. I understand that those are supposed to be the rules in the White House. So we've got a lot beyond the responsibility of whoever was responsible for the documents leaving the White House. We've got to take a look at their entire process and do better. We've got to let the investigations play out to see what the content of the documents were, how or if they were used after they came out of the White House, but they all need to be held accountable.
You have specific insight that the rest of us don't have. Is it possible that someone like you, or Mr. Pence or Mr. Biden is it possible that you have these documents and you just don't realize it?
Well, there are some people that are wondering if some of the documents were classified after they were taken out of the White House. But let me tell you, when I review classified documents, they're in a red folder labeled some level of secrecy, top secret or even higher clearances. So they're pretty obvious. It's not like it's an unmarked document. Each page is marked classified. The folder is marked classified. We have a check-in, check-out system in the Senate. I don't know how President Biden was able to get classified documents out of the Senate when he was here. It may be because he was chair of foreign relations and he took liberties with taking something off Capitol Hill that he shouldn't have. But these are all the facts that need to be documented. The biggest concern that I have is there is an argument for overclassification. I've asked a number of times in classified briefings, why on earth is this classified? I read about it in the Washington Post this morning. So we can have a discussion about whether or not it should have been classified, but the fact of the matter, it was, and we can't make decisions about what should and shouldn't be shared if it's in fact top secret information.
Do you think there should be congressional hearings, more special counsels?
I do. I think that, we have a special counsel for President Trump. We have a special counsel for President Biden. We'll see whether or not they do something for Vice President Pence. But I think that those investigations have to be independent. Some of the pundits on TV dismissing one and upping the pressure on another investigation makes no sense to me. You get to the facts, and the facts lead you to what to do based on the totality of the information you identify.
All right, let's talk debt ceiling. The U.S. hit its debt ceiling last week. The Treasury Department now taking what they call extraordinary measures to prevent default. We're already teetering on the edge of a recession. You got jobs, livelihoods at risk, and we know the U.S. has never defaulted on its debt. I know you told CNN that you're going to wait and see what the House does, but given what we saw with the speaker vote, what gives you confidence with our entire economy here at stake that the House can effectively tackle this thing?
Well, first off, I think that Speaker McCarthy and the Republicans are right to say that we have to bend the curve on spending. The American people need to know that each of them, every living, breathing person in the United States, is approaching about $100,000 debt to retire our current debt, which is past $30 trillion now, almost $32 trillion. So I think that Speaker McCarthy, I think President Biden has made a mistake by saying he would not negotiate. President Biden needs to understand Republicans won the election, have a majority in the House, and they rightfully should be at the table, and they need to come up with a compromise. The reason why I think the House should take the lead on this is that we have to see something that we can get 60 votes for here in the Senate. But I think that the American people need to understand that this is critical. We're reaching a point to where our debt is almost, it's getting to a breaking point, and a few more $1 trillion could cause disastrous economic consequences. I hope that Speaker McCarthy and the president come to terms, that we avoid a default, which would probably not really occur until May or June, and look out for the interest of the American people.
You've gotten a reputation as this deal maker in the Senate. I'm not sure it's one that you completely like, but it's usually said in a positive way that you seem to be wanting to get things done. With that in mind, what's your biggest obstacle to that end of compromise, of getting things done? The Democrats in the Senate or some of the Republicans in the House?
Well, I think it's, I tell everybody, I'm not one big kumbaya, let's be friends and pass a lot of bipartisan bills. I look at the specific bill. I see whether or not it's sound policy. I see whether or not it's taking care of a number of things like the Respect for Marriage Act, religious freedom. And then I move forward on that transaction. And we're going to have to do that with the challenges that we confront in this Congress. And it will be different. If you take a look at some of the bipartisan efforts I've been involved in, there are some people who have supported most, not all of them, but there are different groups of people with different priorities that represent their ideology. They represent the interests of their constituents back in their states, and I'm going to continue to look for those opportunities to move forward. We can't wait on perfect, because perfect doesn't happen here. The founding fathers wanted to form a more perfect union, but they knew it was flawed and it was going to be difficult, and all I'm trying to do is produce policy that I think benefits people in North Carolina and the country, and I'm going to continue to work on it.
Effective governance, something we talk about all the time. It's the minimum that people should expect of you all up in Washington. Let's talk immigration. You're recently back from the border. Why is this issue something that people should really care about? And what were you able to see up close there?
I went down to El Paso, the sector in El Paso. Also went over to western Arizona, the Yuma sector. And what I saw is complete loss of control of the border. What I saw are Border Patrol agents, ICE agents, customs agents with morale about as low as it's ever been. I saw a 12-foot gate that 3 years ago had 8,000 people cross through it. 2 years ago, it had 2,000 people cross through it. 3 years ago, last year, it had 300,000 people cross through it, speaking more than 200 languages, coming from 170 countries. We have got to help Border Patrol secure the border. We do need, and I think that's one thing that my Democratic colleagues finally understood, that we have to secure the border. It requires walls. It requires technology. We've got to get our Border Patrol agents back on the line versus babysitting, driving buses, and dealing with this crisis that we have. Over 3 million apprehensions could be possible over the next 12 months. We don't know who these are. An increasing number are trying to evade apprehension. And think about this. If you cross the border and you present yourself to a Border Patrol agent under the Biden administration, you're probably going to be released within a matter of days or a week or so. Why on earth would you evade detection? Why wouldn't you present yourself to a Border Patrol agent? Now we have tens of thousands of people coming here trying to outrun law enforcement. And I've got to believe an unhealthy number of them are not good people. We have to control the border. We have to create an orderly process. We have to stop the abuse of our asylum system. And for that, then we can have a discussion about immigration reform, but only if we have a very solid foundation in securing the border and reforming our asylum system, which is being abused by the thousands. Oh, and I should mention something else. Everybody who crosses the border has to pay a toll. They are paying thousands of dollars to transnational criminal organization, an estimated $800 million a year that these same cartels are using to send tons of drugs across the border, including deadly fentanyl that's killing over 100,000 people a year in this country. It's got to stop.
You were part of a bipartisan group that passed the infrastructure bill. It's brought billions to North Carolina. Here in Charlotte, our transit plan sort of remains in limbo. As you know, city folks need the support of Raleigh, also need federal funding. As a senator, as a guy who prides himself in being practical when it comes to policy, and as a resident of the Charlotte area as well, we should say, what compromise would you encourage among these stakeholders to get a transit plan through here in Charlotte?
Well, I think we have to look at the business model for the transit plan. Back when I was Speaker, I supported it. I fulfilled a commitment that was made by prior leaders of the North Carolina House. I think that they've done well by extending the lines as far as up to UNC Charlotte. The question is, what's the business model? Does it make sense? I've seen some towns get away from what I think is a viable business model, some cities across the United States. I hope that Charlotte and Raleigh and other states that are moving forward with mass transit and rail systems are able to present a business model that I can support and that I can try and seek federal funding for.
More of our conversation with the senator coming up after this.